A local kayak and canoe business is suing the state of Texas in an effort to sink Governor Greg Abbott's buoy barrier, deterring migrants from crossing the southern border illegally and placing lives at risk while doing so. The owner of EPI's canoe and kayak team, Jessie Fuentes, filing the lawsuit the same day that construction of the buoy barrier began.
Fuentes claims the barrier will cause harm to his rental and instruction business by preventing him from giving those tours, as well as canoe and kayak sessions. It also comes at the same time the Biden administration has sued Governor Greg Abbott in federal court over the barrier. Jessie Fuentes, again, the owner and operator of this kayak and canoe business. Carlos Flores is the attorney for Jessie Fuentes. Welcome to you both, and thanks so much for coming on. Jessie, we'll start with you. We're familiar with this case. We actually covered it in our court segment of National Report, but I wanted to hear firsthand from you, why did you file the lawsuit?
Because it's about the river. That is a beautiful, majestic waterway. And for the last 8 years, I've worked to establish myself as a credible small business to promote positivity, to promote the beauty of the waterway, and to promote nature. But ever since the state came in, it's hard for me to survive as a small business because what was beautiful has been converted into a war zone. You have layers of concertina wire, shipping cart containers. They've raised islands. They've destroyed sanctuaries. They're hurting the river. And I'm here as an advocate for the river. And that's why I was prompted to seek assistance and get some guidance as to how do we get the state away from this federally protected river and natural waterway that's part of our culture and history.
Okay.
And that was the reason.
Got it. Jessie, thank you for sharing that. Carlos, I want to go to you legally. Where is the argument in court?
The argument in court today is that the Disaster Act, which is a statute under Texas law, does not authorize the governor to essentially create the Texas Department of Homeland Security, the Texas Border Patrol agency, and then come in and construct and install buoys in international waters for the purpose of stopping illegal migration from Latin America. And we believe that the use of the Disaster Act in this way by the governor and by the state of Texas is ultra virus, which means that it's not authorized by law. And we're seeking a permanent injunction from the court to have the buoys that are already been installed removed, and to have an injunction against future buoys or any other border barriers being built along the river there based on that statute, which we believe does not authorize this.
All right. And again, I said we took up this case previously in National Report Court. So here's what the attorney who was representing the state of Texas for the sake of the argument here, this is one of the points they brought up. Take a listen.
Look, we've got to stop people from crossing this dangerous river. It's killing people out there. They're drowning. We've got to stop this immigration coming in. We don't seem to get any help from the federal government anymore. So as Texas, we are going to build something to try to put it into this.
And that's a similar argument we've heard from the governor there, essentially saying it is a dangerous journey for people who are attempting to cross it. Jessie, do you acknowledge that? Do you think that that's a valid comment to make?
Yeah, the reason why this is happening is because, the state is superseding established regulations from federal authorities. As far as immigration, it's a global issue. It's not just a Texas issue. And there was a system in place that was addressing it and that has always addressed it. We've always had excellent communications with the existing authority as to how the river flows or where the currents twist or turn. But, immigration, there's a process in place. And right now what you have is just, an overreach by the state to just go get on the river. There's already a system in place and it's working. And I think it's like I've lived here and I've seen throughout my life that, immigration is going to be strong at one point, or it's going to be weak at another. It's going to have its highs and lows. And it's something that has always been dealt with.
All right. Well,
And,
let me just jump in really quick because you mentioned something about the state overreaching. We have some numbers at what is happening at the border there. If you take a look at your screen here, according to CBP, just the facts, migrant deaths at the border have been going up over the past couple of months. So not just crossing, it was more than 500 in 2021, more than 800 in 2022. Also, weapons and ammo seizures are also up. CBP saying this, it already seized more than 3,200 of them in 2023, coming close to the full year total for all of 2022 alone, still halfway through the year. You go past weapon seizures, you go to drug seizures for this year. They are also near 2022 levels. Again, halfway through this time, let alone that you have seen, if you seem very familiar with what is happening at the border, there have been lives lost for migrants trying to attempt to cross the Rio Grande River to get into the country illegally. Jessie, have you heard this? Does this not pass through your mind when you think about why the governor's trying to put these buoys in place?
Well, if I may answer, Jesse, if I may answer, those are statistics that may be true, may not be true, regardless of whether they are or not.
They are true, sir. They're from the CBP. I didn't make those up.
No, and I'm not saying that you are. I'm just simply saying that those type of statistics do not trigger the Disaster Act that the governor is using to do this. For example, the statute should be used when there is widespread and severe damage, widespread and severe loss of life. We know what widespread and severe loss of life looks like. We just lived through a pandemic where we had hundreds of thousands of people who were sick, dying in medical hospitals, makeshift hospitals. 900 people, 500 people passing away in 1 year. All of that is terrible, and there's no question that that's a tragedy. That is not widespread and severe disaster. That's why the Disaster Act is the wrong statute for him to use, and that's why it's an unlawful act what he's doing to install those buoys in international waters. We know what a national disaster looks like. We know what a major disaster looks like. We just lived through one. This is not it, and the statute does not allow him to do what he's doing.
Yeah, I'm sure then maybe you're aware of the 100,000 Americans who have died from drug overdose deaths. That is a major disaster. And of course, Sean was pointing out the numbers of drugs being trafficked or at least caught. Those are the ones that are caught and determined at the southern border. There's a lot of questions as to how the rest of the drugs make their way across. Jessie, we'll just end, I guess, with your thoughts on what's next for your business here. Assuming that this could be tied up, as we know, many cases can be, going through the court system here. What are you doing in the meantime?
Well, I'll tell you what, the way, if you were to take a tour on this river, you look to our side and you have a war zone. You look to the Mexican side and it's beautiful and pristine and just nature at its best. I'm hoping that our lawsuit will remove all these unnecessary barriers in the water, on the banks that are hurting our ecosystem. If you were to go out on the river, and I'd invite you to take you on the river so you could see it for yourself and see that what the governor's doing is that creating damage and just ruining our community, our culture, our history. And yeah, I'm going to defend my river. Yeah. That's my business. I'm going to defend it. And he has no jurisdiction in that river. And I'm going to protect our ecosystem and our community and everything that we stand for as far as culturally inclined. So I'd invite anybody to come down to Eagle Pass, Texas. I'm friendly. I'm Texan. I'm American. Hey, we'll put you on the river.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would argue a lot of people are trying to get to the U.S. side, as we've seen with the migration numbers reported, too.
It's fluid, ma'am. Migration has always been here. And if you would understand our culture and come visit us, we'd show you. And I'd show you, and I'd put you on the river myself, and I invite you to come.
Well,
come
right.
on by.
We'll have to schedule a trip.
Yeah, the issue at hand, too, really quickly before we go, is that we do talk to the local city, the border towns on this show. We talk to ranchers on this town that have issues. So I'm curious, Jessie or Carlos, both of you, you get your way in this lawsuit. They remove the barriers. You see migrant deaths and the number of fentanyl continuing to come across that border that could have been deterred by this. You don't have any issue with that.
No, I do have an issue with that, of course. We're not for open borders in Texas. Okay, we are Texans. one of the most important things that people need to understand is that the communities along the Texas-Mexico border are some of the safest in the country. And the reason that they're the safest in the country is because the Border Patrol does a great job. The law enforcement in these communities do a great job of keeping our communities safe. So we're not in opposition to law enforcement. That's not our narrative. That's not the border narrative. We have a different reality where we live. And what we're saying to you and to the nation is we live there, day in and day out. And if we don't want border walls, if we don't want barriers, that should raise a question. Why is that? What is it that they're seeing that the rest of us are not seeing? And what we're seeing is that we live there and it's safe. And law enforcement is doing a great job, and we're very grateful for the job that they're doing. But that doesn't mean that I can't hold the governor accountable for misuse of this statute when he installs those barriers in the river. And that's what this lawsuit is about. This lawsuit is not about the bigger question of immigration or no immigration or whether the policy is right or the policy is wrong. This lawsuit is simply, can he execute this policy with the statute that he has used? We believe the answer is no, and we're asking the court to answer that.
Well, we appreciate that. Again, we'll follow that lawsuit there. Carlos Flores joining us, representing Jessie Fuentes. We appreciate your time, and thank you for explaining that. Thank you.
All right.
Thank
Take
you
care, guys.